Welcome back, and we're moving right along, and now we move into chapter 4. And chapter 4, we're going to really talk a lot today about team cohesion and trust. And cohesion and trust, togetherness and trust is extremely important in any team that's going to accomplish anything. I'm often reminded of some of the things I see on football teams. And I won't mention any names for fear of really offending anyone out there in your favorite team, but I have seen some awful team cohesion on some of my NFL teams and some of the NBA teams as well. And I look and once I watch a game or the first parts of the game for a while, I notice, hey, there are some challenges here. Don't know if this is going to work this season, but let's see how it goes. But at any rate, team togetherness is and cohesion is very important. And I love to use sports teams in my discussions because I think they're the ultimate of teams, and we can see how they work. With everyone having various talents on the team, it's just plain as day to see, how if the quarterback is not in with the receivers and the running backs, what's going to happen if the defensive team is not pulling their weight and doing their part, how the offensive team has a much harder time doing the things that they need to do when it's their turn on the field. So it's a dynamic. And if you're watching this during the football season, just take a look and you'll see what I'm talking about. And we can talk about this in our coffee and conversations. But for now, let's get started on chapter 4. So like I said, in chapter 4, we're really going to be talking about team cohesion. So let's get started. I'm going to share my monitor now, and we'll go into our conversation about team cohesion. All right, let's get this thing going. I am so excited to come to you today to really discuss with you about team cohesion. And so it is something. I would like to know your thoughts at the end of this video. Shoot me an email or shoot me something in our discussion post about what are your thoughts about this one after you really get through going through the process. So, identity. The group, the degree to which the people perceive themselves and others to be unified, single team, or collective. That's the group intentivity. So the group identity is the extent to which people feel their group membership is an important part of who they are as an individual. Whereas the identity fusion comes in play when group members' personal identities become focused on their social identities, and their sense of self becomes nearly indistinct from the view of themselves as a group member. So which one of these you think is the ultimate way to be? So let's move on. Common identity and common bond groups. So common identity groups, bonds are based on attachment to the group as a whole versus common bond groups. Those bonds felt for particular group members rather than to the group itself. The rational and collective identity around team identity reveals that rational identity based on important relationships to a particular group, or collective identity, and that is identity based on group membership. And so in this one here, we see the rational and collective attachment styles in groups. And we can see that if there's some questions, we do a lot of things through assessment in academia, and as well as the world of business now. We do a lot of things through assessment to kind of see what's going on, what happens. And so the way a person answers a question or various questions gives us some sense of who that person is, especially if they're not thinking too hard and they just answer the questions with the first thoughts of mind. So self-verification versus group verification. So once a person has formed a particular identity, experiences may either reinforce or fail to reinforce their identity. I am so big on believing that a component to success is knowledge of yourself. No matter what you do, knowledge of yourself is extremely important. And so once a person has formed a particular identity or experiences may either reinforce or fail to reinforce that identity, all right? So self-verification is the process in which a person seeks confirmation of his or her personal self-views, all right? And so group verification really intensifies around the process which a person seeks confirmation of his or her self and group views, all right? So group verification. Oh, who am I? I mean, we got a lot of group verification going on today. Many people think that, hey, I don't know, I got to identify with this group. I got to wear this or wear that particular stitch of clothing in order to be the person that I want people to perceive me to be, right? Not so. So group serving attributions include team member exchange. And we talked a little bit about team member exchange in chapter 2. This really refers to the quality of the reciprocal exchange between coworkers in the workplace. So when a person's identity is fused with that of a group, experiences and outcomes that happen to the group affect the team member, right? Have you been in situations like that where identity really affects you, the group you're in? I know I have some clients recently. I don't take many personal clients that talk to me about from coaching perspective. I'll usually, work with other coaches to say, hey, this group has come in because one of my strengths is building companies and building teams. And then once I do that, or as far as the individual process is concerned, I'll partner with other people to take care of individual coaching information sometimes. But sometimes I'll take some clients on. But inevitably, what happens in these group experiences like this, people will come and say, I don't identify, I can't get along with the group because I don't identify with anything that they're doing. Or I have a person that comes in and says, or a manager that says to me, I'm having really a lot of challenges on the team. There are individuals that don't seem to identify with the group or what the group is doing. I remember one experience I had managing at the bank, and one of the team members came to me in tears. It was a guy, and he came to me in tears, and he said, Marilyn, I just don't know why the team don't like me. And so these are very important things, and people feel a certain way if they can't identify with the group they're working with, or if the group feels as though they can't identify with that individual. I know this is something, isn't it? So you guys thought that things were just simple and natural. Well, they have an effect or a process involved in them based on what's going on with each individual and how that individual feels on that team. So potency, the collective belief of group members that a group can be effective. So this is predictive of powers related to team performance. And the collective advocacy, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time this morning for some reason. So an individual's belief that a team can perform successfully. And characteristics of groups with a high sense of collective advocacy is set more around challenging goals, persist in the face of difficulty, and high likelihood of success. So beliefs about groups, a bag, it's a scale, and we'll look at here. And now this is a great scale group. And so when we look at this, I'd rather work alone than work with others, or I'm more comfortable working by myself rather than as a part of a group. Or I generally prefer to work toward group goals rather than individual goals. Or I prefer group work to individual work. So you see when people are answering these questions, what may be the thought process on their mind. What about you? How do you feel? What are you going through? How do you feel about these questions? And where do you see yourself in this whole potency and collective efficacy process, the back process? Performance beliefs. Groups usually outperform individuals, or groups often produce higher quality work than individuals. And then we have the negative performance beliefs, like assigning work to a group is a recipe for disaster, or group projects usually fail to match the quality of those individuals done by individuals. So we got negative, we got positive, we have a lot of things going on. And then we have the effort beliefs. I trust others, people's work. I trust other people to work hard on group tasks. That may be, and this is from an earlier time frame. I think we have some different beliefs now around group work. I know I spent a lot of time with, on purpose, with a younger audience that's just finishing college, and that's starting the workforce, and how they feel about things, especially during this time, since we're coming out of COVID, or still in COVID, of the whole crisis there, the pandemic crisis, and how they feel about things, how they feel about going back to work, things of that nature. And some of the things that they're sharing with me, and how they see themselves. And many times, some of them see themselves as a lot of them see themselves as an individual, but at the same time, when it comes to work, they see themselves as a group that can combine together. And they understand this process, that if we work together, we can accomplish things, and we can we can do a paradigm shift in organizations and change the way they think about things. Because as it was said to me, Dr. Carroll, you all need us more than we need you. Now, I don't agree with that statement, but that's the way they feel. So some of them feel, rather. So group emotion is a group's affective state that arises from the combination of its bottom-up components or its top-down components. So team members bring their individual level emotional experiences to team interaction. And then similarly, organizational norms and groups' emotional history set the stage for the expressions of feelings of emotion. And so emotions that are felt and displayed in groups coordinate the group's behaviors and cement the bonds, particularly in response to the threat of stress, or the threat of stress. So group mood and emotions, are sharing emotions in groups. How do emotions get shared in groups? Well, let's think about this. Implicit methods, emotional cognition, vicarious effort, behavior, entertainment. And then we have deliberate methods like affective influence and effective impression management. And so these are all things that affect group mood and emotion. We have emotional cognition, which is a process whereby moods and emotions of people around us influence our emotional state. Or we'll have a group's overall emotional tone, really, that can affect a variety, guys, of team behaviors and performances. And I don't know if you've ever been affected by tone in a group, and how did you respond to that? And then the process of emotional cognition implies that group members will converge to in their emotional states over time, leading to a homogeneous group, or a togetherness group composition. And then you have, as we go on, behavior entertainment. Oh my gosh, we see a lot of this. Check out TikTok if you have not already. And you're gonna see a lot of behavior entertainment, which refers to the process whereby one person's behavior is suggested to synthesize with another person's behavior, often shown in body movements. Check out TikTok, like I said, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then the outcome of synchronizing movements is usually a positive effect, which results in greater shared feelings of affection, satisfaction, and rapport. Again, TikTok, and see how that audience grows for individuals, especially those around dance and movement, And because they're thinking and it depends on the music they're listening to, it is something. I just, sometimes if I end my day and I want a good laugh, I'll watch TikTok. So emotional nonconformity occurs when a group member experiences an emotion in the name of their group, which is inconsistent with the collective feels, with what the collective feels. So emotional nonconformity can result in emotional burdens, and that means feeling responsible for carrying the emotion for the group, or emotional transfer, which is transferring negative feelings for the in-group towards the event itself. And so emotional intelligence, and we talk a lot about this, along with emotional intelligence, and that's knowledge of yourself. I think about positive psychological capital, because to me, that is very important as well. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize emotions in ourselves, others, and use our emotional knowledge in a productive fashion. And I think that you can't start with emotional intelligence until you understand your own positive psychological capital. You build that capital that's needed in order to really go into the emotional intelligence state where you understand yourself. So employees with higher emotional intelligence are more effective team players and higher job performance individuals. And so work group emotional intelligence profiles are out there, and a lot of people are using this because this became popular. I don't think this can occur. This is just my personal opinion. And I know the author feels another way that wrote this book and provided these outlines for us on her book. But I believe that, again, that the knowledge of having some positive psychological capital is important. I am a capital girl. I believe in social capital, political capital, intellectual capital, because if I'm talking about economic equations and this is what the world operates on, capital matters. And in this case, in order to have the emotional intelligence about yourself and use it, you need that. And so the author is big on emotional intelligence in work groups, and she goes over her skill and how she sees things. So these were the 8 questions that came from her skill. I can explain the emotions I feel to team members. I can discuss the emotions I feel with other team members. I feel down, I can tell members, and these are important questions. And I do think people need to ask themselves that. So management of own emotions. I own my management. I own me. I own and manage me. I respect the opinion of my team members, even if they are wrong. When I'm frustrated with fellow team members, I can overcome my frustration. When I'm deciding on a dispute, I try to see all sides of the disagreement before I come to conclusion. And I give a fair hearing to fellow team members' ideas. What about you? What do you think about these 8 things or questions I went over? Awareness of your emotions as we go on here. I can read team members' true feelings. I'm able to describe accurately the way others in the team are feeling. And when I talk to team members, I can gauge their true feelings. We go on to management of others' emotions as we go through this whole thing. And we end this on 14 questions. My enthusiasm can be contagious for members of a team. I am able to cheer up the team members when they feel down. And I can get a fellow team members to share my keenness for a project, or I can provide the spark to get the fellow team members enthusiastic. Can you? I really want you to share this with me in our coffee and conversation. How did you take these 16 questions? So now moving on, leadership and group emotion. Leaders' emotions strongly influence group emotions, motivation, and performance, and it does. And we've talked about this since the beginning, starting with this particular process on learning experience in managing group project teams. Leaders' abilities to recognize emotions in their team members determines the effectiveness of their leadership. And emotional aperture, the ability to recognize diverse emotions in a team member. Cohesion and team behavior. So we have group cohesion. We have the emotional attraction among the group members and the ties that bind the group together. Many times we see fraternities and sororities and the interactions that they have with one another, and by them recommending or hiring others in their group, they're doing things around that help them to get more emotionally combined or connected with their group. So now, teams with high cohesion, they're more likely to give due credit to their team partners and are easier to maintain or more likely to participate in team activities. That's teams with high cohesion. So having increased conformity to team norms are more likely to serve team rather than individual interests and are more productive than less cohesive teams. So as you can see, you can tell a lot about how the team dynamics and how a team is working or not working together. And it gives you some insights to what may be going on. You know, you can have perceptions. Like I said, we don't want the total. Sometimes, well, a lot of times we need to know exactly what our problems are. And that's why we'll do things like assessments and things of that nature to come to a conclusion as to what is happening. So ways to build cohesion in groups include helping the team share perceptions of supplementary and complementary fit, perceptions again. Make it easy for the team to be close together, perceive risk and social exclusion from the team, and then challenging hardships and shared by the team. And so fostering cohesion teams, we see in this example about Aetna CEO who raised wages significantly, approved health benefits, and introduced yoga and mindfulness training to improve retention and work culture. And from that, he got more than a quarter of the company's 50,000 employees to participate in a meditation or yoga class. And employees who do so report a 28% reduction in stress levels by gaining an extra 62 minutes of productivity each week. So from that, the profits increased at Aetna and employees' turnover was reduced following Bertolini's first year as CEO. So he made that. This man was obviously involved with his team and wanted to see some things happen. He came in and possibly knew that there needed to be some type of transformation that happened for his team. And then here's another example of employees who were offered limitless tuition reimbursements, no cap on paid sick days, and a 401k plan with a 10% company contribution. That's great, but it's more than great benefits that foster cohesion at the Wisconsin insurance company, Acuity. So they, on one occasion, 40 employees dressed as zombies and filmed a YouTube video on work time and called it Acuity Zombie Apocalypse, in which they explain why they love their job. And I thought that was awesome. What are your thoughts? Have you guys ever done anything that was like out of the norm or just things that you could film together and work together on that would show what kind of teamwork and cohesion you all have working together? And then we have the Boston group, who consulting group, and that's a big consulting group. Employees would take a social impact leave of absence for 3 to 12 months. Now, have you ever taken that? I feel like I took a leave of absence from corporate America when I started teaching, and it gave me a different mindset or frame to see things differently. I didn't think I'd be gone away from corporate America this long, but I have. And, but not really, because I've started my own companies and that helps me tremendously reconnect back to business as usual and still be in the know of how things work and don't work. So they went and did something else. Like, as I stated, for me, I chose to go into education for a while and try my hand there to bring my knowledge of what it's really like in corporate back to the classroom. So trust versus respect. Now, respect is the level of of esteem a person has for another. Trust is the willingness of a person to rely on another person's in the absence of monitoring. So I can't see you, but I trust what you're saying. I trust what you're doing. So measuring trust versus measuring respect in teams, Exhibit 4.5 shows us this, how some of the questions are. And a lot of these questions you probably have seen in all the exhibits we've shown since the start of this class in various assessments that gauge what's going on in an organization. A lot of these questions are taken from various assessments in order to determine that. So trust and monitoring. Trust leads to higher performance on teams, however, a high level of trust among team members can make self-managing work teams reluctant to monitor one another because they trust each other. So they may not look at, what's going on and, oh, I got this. And we know that charismatic people can get away with a lot of things and people just trust what they're saying and then no one's really watching the team like they need to be. And so high team trust combined the low individual anonymity resulted in the best team performance. There's trust asymmetry and monitoring distances. So trust congruence and propensity to trust is the degree to which the leader's trust in their group is matched by the group's trust in the leader. Now, when people have differing levels of trust in their group, their diversity increases this frustration and can result in a downward trust spiral and decreased performance. So we have various types of trust on teams. We have incentive-based trust, we have trust based on familiarity, we have trust based on similarity, we have trust based on social networks, and then implicit trust. Which trust do you have at the company or the team that you are part of? So repairing trust and psychological safety. So repairing trust is more difficult, guys, in groups than with individuals because psychological safety is impacted. And this reflects the extent to which people feel they can raise issues and questions without fear of being rebuffed. And this happens a lot. I have worked at companies that I am much better at when I can freely express and not feel threatened that I'm going to be put down, bullied, or something else because I freely expressed something that mattered to me, as well as I felt as though it would matter to the organization because I wasn't just out for myself, I was out for the organization first and foremost. So psychological safety is important in teams that need to communicate knowledge and learn from one another. Psychological safety is a microclimate. Climates are important. So average lifespan of a team is approximately 24 months, which we talked about in chapter 1. Group socialization is the process of how individuals enter into and eventually exit teams. This process is particularly important in high technology industries because of frequent transfers and cost of integrating new employees. It's costly to integrate new employees. I often talk about this from a training perspective. When you are bringing in a new employee every time, if you have a high turnover rate, I don't care what kind of company it is, but especially true for technology companies. It takes a lot of money to retrain those individuals. You got the cost of recruiting them, you got the cost of training them, you have the cost of assimilating them into the organization. So there are 3 predictors of newcomer performance, and they are newcomer empowerment, team expectation, and team performance. All 3 are impacted and decides whether a new employee is going to stay or go. And if any of those are off balance, it's more than likely some people are going to go because they're not going to take too much these days. Especially we see this in these latest generations that have come out. They're just not going to take too many things that they just don't agree with. And when performance is down, and they're more probably team members than people who are from earlier generations who are individuals. So there are three critical things during group socialization that can affect the productivity of teams, and they are evaluation, commitment, and role transition. So useful strategies for integrating new members into the team include upper management and leaders need to clearly, get this guys, clearly inform the team why the new member is joining the team. Not doing this hurts so many teams. Get this, if you are a manager, you need to explain things. You need to listen to your team. If you want people to work together and do it in a way that really achieves results that you're looking for, maybe you're not looking for much results, but if you're looking for results, you have got to bring these people together. So exiting team members should really explain what they regard as the strengths and the weaknesses of the team. New members should understand the team goals and processes, guys. And so group socialization and turnover, role transition in groups is a great figure here to see on Exhibit 4.6. And we can see investigation stage and see this bell curve. Look at this. Look how full member, I'm not a full member until I'm a prospective member, new member, full member, investigation, socialization stage, maintenance stage is when I did that. Resocialization stage. We have things that we're still going through. Remembrance stage, ex-member. I'm an ex-member of a team. Many of the people are now retiring because the company has merged with another company. And I stay connected with people that I've worked with before. It's very important. And a lot of times I have a lot of great advice to offer, or they have advice to offer me while I'm still out in the market or teaching or, whatever I may be doing. I never lose contact with people I've worked with that closely with because it's extremely important. They know a lot about me because they saw me more than probably my family did. So temporary and permanent newcomers have different effects on the team old timers. That is true. Group members are less accepting of temporary newcomers than permanent newcomers. And we see a lot of temp work going on now. My daughter is working temporarily for a company at the same time managing the things that she has to do for our company, our security company. So she is, I wanted her to learn more about the world of business and to actually be in there. So it's sort of like an internship she's doing, but I think it's been the best thing for her, even because I hear all the complaints and stuff she had. It wouldn't have been the best thing for her if she was low key about it. And it's just like, oh, Mom, I had fun today. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a waste. I need her to understand things. Temporary newcomers share more unique knowledge in groups and enhance groups' decision quality. Now, when newcomers criticize their workspace, profession, or community, they arouse more resistance in old timers because don't you criticize what we've done here. How dare you? We are where we are and you trying to get to where we are. So that's the kind of mindset they may have. And so we don't want to criticize others. We want to find ways to join in. So newcomers can reduce old timers' resistance when they distance themselves from their previous groups. So newcomer innovation and then turnover may have a positive effect. There are three factors that determine the extent to which newcomers can introduce change. Now check this out, newcomers, and a lot of us are newcomers to company, and this is some things I shared with my daughter as well in so many words, maybe not the same words, but so many of those same words. Newcomer commitment to the team, newcomers' belief that they can develop good ideas for solving the team's problems, and newcomers' belief that they will be rewarded. So these are some things that can happen. There are several newcomer roles. There's the visitor role. Are you visiting? Temporary worker? Are you a transfer? Have you been transferred in? Because we combining the groups, we merged, we had an acquisition. Replacement, are you a replacement for somebody that has left? Or are you a consultant and you're here to give us guidance and on a particular task, process, procedure, or roles or management. So turnover and recognitions disrupt group performance, especially when, guys, group members are reciprocally interdependent. So the group has high rather than low structure, and the task is complex rather than simple, plain and simple. And you guys probably knew these things. So that kind of brings our week 4 or chapter 4 to conclusion. I really want to know your thoughts. This was a lot of cohesion and working together. What are your thoughts on yourself and how you work together? Join me this week on Coffee and Conversation. I'd love to hear from you and to know exactly how you see things in the world that you're in and on the teams that you're on. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for our week's conversation. Take care.